space, no one can hear you scream. Alien. I'm John Stark from ActionMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. This is spooky season, and this is a second look at Alien. Yeah, this is a classic. This is Ridley Scott. This is 1979, so that means this film's celebrating an anniversary. That's kind of a weird one, I'll admit. It's the 45th anniversary of Alien, um, but an anniversary nonetheless. So you, sir, are in for a treat. Mainly I'm doing this because of Alien Romulus and prepping for that due to streaming drop and that kind of stuff. But also spooky season and cramming it in at the last minute and all that goodness and all that jazz and all that jazz. Um, so Ridley Scott's Alien was not initially critically beloved, although it did win the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects for 1979, and it was introduced into the Library of Congress. So it is officially one of those films that has, quote, stood the test of time, quote, in the most legal sense that we can possibly come up with for that film. When you get inducted in the Library of Congress, it's really like the final step in your ascension into legendary status. And I think kids today don't appreciate Alien. I'm not even like from Alien's generation, but like I appreciate the work. Like when you look at films from 1979 and you look at Alien's really cool, you know? Alien was one of the reasons, like Alien and Star Wars and some of those things were one of the reasons that when I saw like Disney's The Black Hole, which was released around the same time, I was like, this feels like it was not made in the same time period. Like, it feels like this was made like 10 years before. Because meanwhile, we have films that are like advancing VFX in science fiction. The Black Hole feels like it does not, it's not on the same level as the other films. So, sadly, Ridley Scott has not won an Academy Award for directing, which is a failure of our generation. And I don't even understand. But like I don't understand how he's made it this whole time without a win. But I would vote for him for Gladiator 2 as long as that film is like fairly competent, just to give him an Oscar at this point. But I think he has an honorary Oscar, to be totally honest. I think he has one. That's one of the Lifetime Achievement Oscars. This is the beginning of it all. This is the crew. This is their cargo ship, and they get a signal, a fortuitous signal that signals life, the potential of life. Somebody may be hailing them, and they have to go investigate it. That's part of their contract. They lose rights. It's this whole thing. It's really weird because Alien was the first film, and I don't think Ridley Scott knew he was going to be making as many sequels / prequels to this film as there ended up being. But like Prometheus actually brings a lot of context to Alien, but Alien is the film that you really need to see before you watch Alien Romulus, because Alien actually directly is referenced in Alien Romulus like multiple times. So you have the crew, and I don't necessarily want to spoil Alien, but also I feel like if I don't talk about Alien, people are like, well, I came here for deep thoughts on Alien. I'm like, what? I don't know what about me gave you the that I was like gonna give you the historical knowledge of Alien. And did you know that there was a production assistant by the name of James, and he actually came through. and he was the one who was in the alien suit, and they couldn't find anybody, but he was of the right side. I don't know, shit like that. Some people do, and they find that deeply interesting and great. Um, I I listen to other people talk about Alien, and I always find it funny when people are like, "Yeah, I just kind of saw it recently for the first time." I'm like, "You just saw Alien? Never mind." Because there are films that are on my list where it's like, I know I should see that film, but I don't want to say I don't want to say what those films are. Some of them are just really long. Like some of them, I feel pretty confident in being like, "Yeah, I haven't seen that." It's like fucking 4 hours long, man. I just some of them are just like I gotta sit down and have a minute, you know. Um, and I always thought I'd have more time to before going blind to see these films. Like somebody when I reviewed the remake of The Killer, they were like, "You haven't seen the original The Killer?" It's like, yeah, man, I just was not at the front of my list, and I did not think going blind in my mid 30s was like on the cards on the table. And there's no audio description for it. So, as there are not for most international features, it's hard to get them even for American features. Alien is a film that is impossible to find with audio description unless you are searching the web, would be the best way that I could say that. Um, which is fine because this is an audio description track that doesn't work for me. So I would want it re-recorded anyway. I would say no, I would pass on this and say what I heard was not something that uh, I would pass along. I think in terms of did it describe some action scenes and stuff? Sure. Um, I think the iconic uh, uh, chest burster scene is was done fairly well, but at the same time, I don't know what the over sexualization uh, of Ripley is Ridley in this. Oh, uh, it just I don't know why Ripley is it the audio description track like it goes hard on the underwear, and then it mentions that her nipples are hard, which is just gross. I was like, what the? This isn't even like a film that I would be looking for sexual content in. Uh, I mean, I'm a gay film critic, so I'm not also turned on by Sigourney Weaver. But even if it was like somebody I was attracted to, and they were like, and the nipples are hard, I'd be like, does that matter in this sequence? It's like the final sequence. She's like fighting for her life. I think she's like the last one alive. And she, I mean, she's like her versus the alien, and they're like, her nipples are hard. It's like, and who cares? Like, what? This is such a weird scene to mention that. Um, I, and it's one of those things too where you're like, maybe they just were, unintentionally when she's in this fucking shitty wardrobe that she's being given. Maybe they just were. Maybe it just wasn't even like an intentional thing that Ridley Scott did anything with. So you're just pointing out something like about her, that just happens to be a truth. It wasn't necessarily something that Ridley Scott was planning, but it just happened. So yeah, we need to redo the audio description for this anyway, so I don't really care that it's not out there. This is not the first time I've encountered that where I've listened to some audio description. Some of the audio description tracks that are just are findable and are not out. I would say are not out for good reason, because if I was working for the studio and I heard the track, I would pull it. I'd be like, well, we need to remake, but I would also remake it. So I would also put a new one out. I wouldn't just pull accessibility without replacing it. I would immediately be like, well, I don't know what was happening here. But you know how we keep saying like, well, back in the day, these were different times. It's like, these weren't that different times. Like, audio description doesn't go that far back. So I don't know at what point somebody was like, yeah, this is, um, I'm all about like leaning into the genre, and the genre here is horror. The genre here is not porn. So I don't need, I don't think anybody needs to know that her nipples are hard. I feel like the movie will make it just fine without knowing that. So, one of the best things about the Alien movie is that she's not even the lead. This film does not jump into horror tropes, but it's impossible to appreciate that now in 2024. It is impossible. So people criticize this film from a whatever perspective, whatever they watched it, and the other things they saw before it, and they're like, I don't know. Well, it's like it's old, and I had just so many questions, and it's like, do you realize that you have a film where the lead protagonist is like it's not the lead, and she's not top billed. There's no necessarily like certain reason that says, oh yeah, she's gonna make it. She doesn't seem like she's highly skilled in kung fu or anything that would be useful. She just kind of somehow survives, and it's not really until the later films that she gains that like sort of like final girl, uh, ultimate status, where she's like, I fought this thing before and won, and now I'm a badass. No, she's just like a regular crew member who just like kicks this thing's ass and survives. So, um, I think that's downplayed a lot, because in most films you can telegraph who the final girl is going to be, and we get so used to it after seeing so many horror movies that we're like, oh yeah, well that's the final girl. Of course that is. It becomes really easy to be like, well, obviously it's Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. I mean, like there's just certain people where you're like, well, Nancy's the lead of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it becomes a little bit much after a while. But Alien didn't do that. Alien just said, here's a crew, here's a thing, and they kind of kept it terrifying and practical, and didn't let you know what was coming next and what was in the dark, and this alien that couldn't be defeated because if you did cut it open, it was full of acid that would melt through like multiple layers of your ship. So it's like, how do you even defeat it? So they're trying to think about like defeating it without it burning like a hole through the exterior of the ship. Um, and they have this cast, with everybody from like Tom Skerritt to Ian Holm, who plays Ash, which is relevant if you want to watch Alien Romulus. So, uh, I don't know. I feel like it's a great movie, but people know it's a great movie. So, does it hold up 45 years later? Of course it does. Does it need me to tell you that? No. Did you need me to know? Are people still talking about it? Yeah. It's funny to always just like watch younger people than me sit and talk about Alien and be like, oh, well, I don't know about this. What was the first film you saw? I don't know, Alien versus Predator. I didn't really get into the Alien franchise. It's like, why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you in a horror movie? Like, how is this your genre, but like you haven't seen Alien? I feel like there are a couple like horror icons, and Alien is one of them. I feel like you should see some of them before you announce yourself as being like, I'm a horror movie channel, I'm a horror movie podcast, whatever. And then it's just, I don't know, it's very weird. So yeah, I've seen Alien before. Based on my age range, though, no, I did not see Alien in theaters. I was not alive. Uh, and my first encounter with Alien was I saw the director's cut when it was released in the early 2000s. I don't know what anniversary that would have been for it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what year was that? Did it line up with anything? Because I think it was like 2003. I think it was like just shy of the 20. I don't want to say it was the 25th anniversary. I don't think it was 2004. Because for some reason, I remember it coming out the same time as Spirited Away. And I don't, because it would need to be 2004 for it to be a 25th anniversary of Alien. But maybe it was 2004. Anyway, so that was the one that I saw. Was the director's cut, was the moment when, because it got like a theatrical reissue, and it was actually released pretty wide for a re-release at the time. Like now we take, because they need to fill screens, so now you can pretty much like walk over to your theater and they've got like, I don't know, The Secret Life of Pets or something, and you're like, oh, I guess we reissued that. No, it's like, no, they just need to fill the screen. um so they just got random movies all the time now. But no, back in the day, it used to be sort of random, like, yeah, I was too young to see Star Wars in theaters, so my first encounters were the Star Wars reissues in the 90s. That was how I saw Star Wars, which were like slightly altered, and I get that, and I'm sorry, but that was just based on when I was born. But I did make the effort, and I did see all three Star Wars films in theaters that way through their reissue. So, reissues used to be kind of cool when they were done right. I think Gone with the Wind, I remember, was re-released. Grease was re-released. So, they were like very specific. Godfather, I think, had a reissue. I didn't see that one though. That was the one I didn't. Yeah, but Alien, and I own it. I own the director's cut on DVD, which gives me the unabashed feeling of being able to talk about it at length, because I can always just like go grab the DVD and be like, I have this physical media here that should have audio description on it. This should have been made accessible when it was released, but c'est la vie, right? Um, Definitely check out Alien. Definitely watch. Definitely watch Alien. Like I don't even know why I should be here telling you that, but I listened to too many people around the time when Alien Romulus was released in theaters talking about Alien like for the first time, and it bothered me. So I watched it again, and I was just like, this is a great film. Like from beginning to end, this is a classic film. I don't know if I can say like desert island film, because I don't necessarily want to take Alien with me and then watch it like 100 times. It's just not that level for me, but I do like it. And I think, especially for 1979, I'm like, damn, Ridley Scott made a fucking masterpiece in 1979. So um, yeah, we had some people who were doing some really cool things in the 70s and really pushing the boundaries of what was film in the 70s. And I think the 80s really benefited from that. They were pulling away from and trying to get more into technical and practical effects and making things look really good. And some of those films just don't get quite the credit that they do from today's audiences that are used to, I don't know, Avatar or something. I have no idea what kids yelling on crack. Anyway, it's a weird review of Alien, but it's a review of Alien. So, which doesn't need a review because it's in the Library of Congress. So it's an untouchable. It's literally like, what am I gonna do? Come in here and be like, well, Alien, I don't care. It doesn't care. It's in the Library of Congress. It made it. There's no further part that it can't go any higher. When you're inducted into the Library of Congress, that's kind of like, that's it. That's like the highest achievement that you can get. Until the Oscars like issue like a version where they go back and they give Oscars to films from blank years ago, where they're like the re-Oscars, like the whoops, we missed you. We got it wrong the first time. Let's give out some Oscars. Let's reflect Until they start doing those, I think probably the highest is going to be Library of Congress, because so many films get dropped and then it's like people just don't appreciate it and the Oscars don't quite get it or understand it. And then later on, we're like, oh my God, why was Nada nominated? What's going on here? And then you look back at the original critics' ratings and scores for films, and you're like, what the fuck was The Shining nominated for a Razzie? Like, what is going on in this? There's just things where you just look at it and you go, I can't even contextually understand what would drive people to make this choice back in the day. So, of course, Alien was great. I don't understand the critics who didn't get that in 1979, but some people are just have an aversion to horror. So, but Alien's great. Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, classic cinema character. And I haven't said too much about the film in case you haven't seen it, because a shocking amount of people haven't seen Alien. Uh, and I think you should see it. So, um, I'm giving Alien an A. That's my experience with Alien. It's not fully like a review. It's like a half review. I'll admit to that. But at the same time, I actually want you to watch Alien. I don't want to just like break it down to make it feel like that you watched Alien through watching my review. No, I want you to do the work, damn it. This is a great film that deserves to actually be watched, not like go on YouTube and watch a whole bunch of people talk about Alien so then you can go tell your friends and make it seem like you watched Alien. That's not what this is. Um, so yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.